Alrighty, welcome back ladies and gentlemen to another video. This one is going to be the Portaleceria Afra bonsai repot. Now in the last Portulacaria video we were repotting the two variegated bonsai cuttings that we're doing the bonsai from scratch project with. Now they've been repotted and are quite happy, so I thought I would turn my attention to this one which I picked up very recently at the weekend from the garden centre. I actually drove all the way back there to pick this up after thinking, you know what, I never see these around here. You may be able to get them in other parts of the UK, but I never ever see them in garden centres in the UK. And I think if you've got that feeling about something, you should just go for it. It's overpriced in my opinion, but because you don't see them very often and it's something that I wanted to make a project out of, I think it's worth spending the extra bucks. And there aren't many varieties of bonsai that you can actually successfully keep inside in the UK. All of my other bonsais live outside year round, so it's a nice novelty to have one that I can actually keep inside and appreciate a bit more often on a daily basis. So this is going to be my pet indoor bonsai. Obviously the Portaleceria Afra is a cousin of the money tree or the jade plant. It's in the same family, which is why the leaves look similar, just like a miniaturized version of the jade plant leaves. So this one is pretty healthy. I'm pretty pleased with it. I like the shape. There was a couple to choose from. This had the thickest trunk, and okay, there's not a lot of movement going on there. They've put it in on a slant to give it a bit more interest. I don't know if I'm going to keep it slanted like that. I guess it works a little bit, but the shape of it to me looks more informal upright, and you know, it's probably putting quite a bit of pressure on the roots keeping it like this. I mean, these are mass produced and they're basically crammed into pots, and this soil here is really not very good. It's almost like clay. You can water it, and if the sun comes out it basically dries out in less than a day. It's really not very good stuff. It's very solid. It goes like concrete when it dries. So that's why I wanted to get this repotted quickly. Normally I wouldn't advise it. I would suggest you give it a few weeks for the plant to settle in at its new location. It's been moved from pillar to post several times by the time you get it. It would have gone on the road from the grower, usually in another country, on a long distance lorry, maybe to a distributor and wholesaler somewhere in the UK, and then shipped on again to the garden centre. It's been pushed and pulled all over the place. So it's not a bad idea to give your new house plants or bonsai trees a rest when you first get them, and give you a chance to assess it and look at it, maybe quarantine it. But in this case the soil's just really bad, and I won't feel comfortable until I get it into some better soil. I'm going to try and disturb the roots as little as possible. It is springtime, so it's not a bad time of year to get into repotting bonsai, but yeah, I'm going to get started, and also it gives us the opportunity to check out the roots and have a look at the plant and see where we go from here. But really I think I'm just going to be growing this one on, trying to make it as bigger as possible, grow and thicken this trunk line. I think there's some options for some nice root structure coming out here, and we'll be trimming the leaves back as and when they grow to try and get more refined canopy, looking at the branches, choosing where we want maybe a few more to come. There's a little bit of a blank spot around here, and as you can see this is a very leggy branch that isn't doing very much, so there's going to be some trimming going on as well. But for the meantime we'll just do one thing at a time, get this repotted, let it chill out in its pot for a little bit, and then we'll do some trimming as well once it's actively growing again and the weather picks up. But let's get on to the repot here and see how we get on. So as I said, this soil is not good at all. It's absolutely solid, which means I'm going to have to be careful when I take this out because I don't want to damage the roots. But it is basically like just a hard packed clay. The water does soak into it, but yeah, I don't like how it dries out so quickly. So over here I've got my bonsai soil ready to go. Let me see that. It's a mixture of various different things. We've got some fine bark particles. We've got some molar clay, some grit, and a tiny little bit of normal potting compost as well. So the idea of this sort of dedicated bonsai compost is that you've got loads of drainage, which means you're going to get loads of oxygen to the roots, but just a little bit of water retention there as well. Because I don't really want to be watering it every single day. If it's just in a molar clay mix, which a lot of bonsai are in, it just doesn't hold on to the water at all, and you have to be watering so often when the warm weather picks up. You get a hot sunny day, you'll be watering it twice a day, which is a lot of work. So a tiny bit of natural compost in there to add a little bit of water retention. But it's that balance I think you've got to find between a decent healthy mix for drainage as well as a little bit of retention. I think that's a good mix there. So that's what we're going to be using. Now we're going to try and get this out of the pot. I want to try and remove it without breaking any of the roots off, which is going to be difficult with this hard packed clay soil. So as usual, trusty harvest knife. I've actually, I don't know, you probably can't see it, I've bent it a little bit because I used it as a screwdriver the other day. It is a multi-purpose tool. Now let's see what we can do here. I don't imagine it's been in this pot very long. As I said, they're mass production jobs. They would have been grown on probably in a field or a large container with hundreds of them, and then they go and stuff them in these pots before they get shipped out. So I don't imagine it's root bound or anything like this, because they probably haven't been grown in these pots. But let's see what we can find. I'm just using this to break the seal along the edge. Normally you could sort of grip the trunk and sort of leverage it out a little bit carefully, but I'm quite concerned about the roots and the fact that this soil is set so hard. I want to give it as good an opportunity to come loose as I can. It's feeling good so far. Just going to do the back bit here now. Doesn't feel too bad. Gonna lever it out. Yeah, feels like it's coming. Let me just check. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's tied in by anything. I wouldn't expect it to be with these jobs, but you never know. It's worth checking. And there we go. That's come out not too bad. All right. So I'm just going to carefully take the soil off the roots like this. I should do this in a tray really, it'd be less to clear up afterwards, but there we are. The benefit of having a potting shed. It doesn't really matter if you make a mess. There's a good lot of roots on here, which is good to see. There's a bit of a clump in there, so I'm just going to very carefully persuade the solid clump of soil to come out. This is why we want to get rid of this soil. It really is solid like clay. Not good for the roots. There's no chance of getting oxygen down to the roots to help keep them healthy and help keep them growing vigorously. You need that open medium of the bonsai soil to allow the water and therefore the oxygen and the nutrients to drain through all of the roots to get them what they need. But that's pretty good. As you can see, that's most of the roots opened up. There's not much left on there now. Gonna have a look at this side. Persuade a few more bits to come through the roots, but it does look good around here. You can see there's a decent splayed base there, which looks pretty good. That's going to help the look of the tree with the age and everything else like that, and that's going to help widen the base and make for a hopefully an attractive bonsai that looks nicely aged. So I'm quite pleased with that. I don't have a bigger bonsai pot for it at the moment, and I think it looks quite cute in there. I don't think there's any real reason to change the pot for now. So I'm just going to get rid of this old soil somewhere. Probably wasn't a good idea, but never mind, it's done now. So why don't you sit there carefully? Are you going to stay there? Yep. Right. So let's put a bit of soil back in the bottom. I'd normally put a gauze in the bottom where the holes are there. As you can see, that's sub-ideal, it's falling through. Okay. I don't have the gauze, I know where it is, and it isn't here. You know what? Tell you what I can use. I'll improvise. I think I've got some bulbs in this. It may have even been some air plants actually, and I kept this because I thought it might make useful gauze. So this is what we're going to use in the absence of some proper gauze that I do not have to hand right now. Scissors would be handy. Have we got any scissors here? Ah, the bonsai shears did it in the end. Nice and sharp. There we go. I think the finer particles are still going to go through there. But once the bigger ones block it up, it won't go too far. Yeah, that's holding it. Right, that's that back in there. So as usual, we want to work all the tiny particles of the soils down in between the roots, okay? So whatever you've got to hand, give it a little fettle and a little prod. Try and work those pieces down without actually hurting the roots too much. Got a little piece of garden cane here that's quite useful to do this with, and you can see the soil level going down as you do this, as the little pieces are getting worked into the gaps, because you don't want any gaps in the soil or else the soil won't be doing its job. It's a little bit wobbly in the pot, so I think it's going to need tying in with a bit of wire. And my bonsai wire is in the same place. Oh no, it isn't. I thought it was in the same place as my gauze, but I've got it. Fear not. So this is the best thing to do with bonsai, really. You want to secure it in the pot. So the idea is that you can push some wire down in between the roots and then secure it through the two holes in the bottom there, and that will anchor the tree in place and stop it rocking, because if the tree is rocking, then it's moving and disturbing the roots, which is not what we want. So I've got some bonsai wire here. You want a reasonable thickness that is going to be up for the job. If it's too thin, it's not going to be able to hold and grip it well enough, but you don't want it too thick either. So we're going to just carefully push it down into the roots. Let it find its own way. Actually, you know what? I think it'd be better to go from the bottom. There's the hole in the bottom. There we go. You see the wire coming out the top. There we go. I can feel it. I've got my finger on the other hole and I can just feel it as I've pushed the wire out the bottom, the other end. So I've now got a loop from one to the other, and that will pull that tree down and secure it. And then once we're done, we can bury that wire and it won't be very obvious at all. I'm just going to tie the two ends together and twist them. So there we go, that's how that much more steady. I think I'm going to do the same again across that way, just so we've got a decent hold on it. That one's held that perfectly, but if we've got two, then that would be better than one. And we're just going to do the same again from the other direction. And put my finger underneath so I can feel for the wire as it comes back down. This is a bit fiddly, but if you're patient and take your time, you get there. There we go, just got it through the gauze. There we are. I want to pull it tight so it buries itself under the ground. So there we are. That's totally stable in the pot now. And the wires are both just below the surface. You can't really see them. So I'm going to fill it up again now with a bit more soil. And they will disappear, but this will be nice and solid in the pot. That's the idea. I think that root's just been severed by my wiring. That's a shame. Hopefully it will find its way back in there, or we'll have to chop it off. Never mind. So just a few particles of the finer stuff to go in and around the top. And that will find its way through as you give it a good water. I just like to take a few of the bigger granules off the surface just for aesthetics, no other reason. If you're dealing with the smaller pots, then the smaller granules give it a better sense of scale. There we go. So the wires, let's put that down. So the wires have now disappeared. The tree is in some much better compost. And this guy is going to be a lot better off for it. So there we have it, a freshly repotted Portulacaria bonsai. I'm quite happy with that. Coming up in a future video for this one, we are going to do a bit of pruning for it, but that's pretty straightforward with these. They back bud pretty readily by cutting down these branches here and here and here and here and here. That will create more branches to spring out, and we can design it and develop it as we go along, but that's for future videos. This one is just the repotting for now, and I'll get another pruning video out for you so you can see that process. Gives us something to work on whilst we're waiting for the variegated bonsai to grow a bit. It's going to be a long project if we just had to wait for them. Nature can be a bit slow sometimes. So yep, that's it for this one. Please give a thumbs up if you found it interesting or helpful. If you're new around here, I would love it if you would subscribe, because it'd be great to see you again. And in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you very soon on another video. Bye for now.